Welcome to the Vegalogue podcast, a dialogue about the Australian vegetable industry from AUSVEG. I'm Campbell Cooney.
These study trips, if anybody's ever got an opportunity to do one, you're mad if you don't do it.
In late August, a group of Australian vegetable growers spent a week in New Zealand as part of the Vegetable and Onion Study Tour program funded by Hort Innovation. These industry study tours provide opportunities for Australian vegetable and onion growers and supply chain businesses to increase their awareness and knowledge of the research and innovations in the global horticultural industry through the delivery of tours to strategic vegetable and onion growing regions, conferences, facilities and innovation centres around the globe. The group visited farming operations across the country's North Island, retailers, the biosecurity branch at Wellington's International Airport, and were delegates at the annual New Zealand Horticultural Conference. The tour group was made up of growers from across Australia. It included Warrick Purden, the General Manager of Farm Operations with Hussey and Co in Victoria's Gippsland, and Jimmy Fox and Calvin Parker, who are from near Manjimup in Western Australia, and both part of their family's farming operations, primarily growing potatoes, but also other vegetable crops. I spoke with all three about what they learnt on the tour, and I started by asking why they wanted to be part of it. Warrick Purden answered first.
Yeah, for me it's always just about learning new things, learning something new from a new place and new people. It's experience that you don't get from a textbook or from necessarily your local farmer down the road or even in our next state.
What about you, Jimmy?
Basically the same than Warrick. I just wanted to learn new things and basically meet new people as well that are in different industry.
Yeah, same thing really. I think that New Zealand is a similar sort of environment, and as far as their regulations and whatnot, they are pretty similar to Australia. But I think learning new things over there that we can potentially adapt and use over here.
One of the highlights for me was seeing and talking to the guys post the conference and actually meeting a lot of growers that did very, very similar things and same sort of scale as what we do. And getting to talk to them about what they're going through and stuff.
Calvin, you guys are potato growers. Did you see some of those operations over there?
We did go to a potato farm over there. We didn't get to see a lot of the actual farm as such, but we talked a lot to the farmer, and he had a lot of interesting things to talk about. That being the fact that they don't use irrigation over there, whereas we spend a lot of money on irrigation and watering our crops. It was interesting also the chemicals and whatnot that are getting taken away over there that are going to potentially be taken off the shelves here. And I think that it's good to see what they're doing to adapt to those sorts of chemicals being taken off the shelves.
The highlight was going to the apple farms there and realising how they've adapted after the floods and everything like that. It was a bit of an eye-opener how they've picked themselves up and continued.
Were the operations that you were seeing there similar to the operations you guys have?
With the apple farms, pretty similar with the netting and how they've grown the apples and the pruning and stuff like that. Much similar than the apple farms down at home, but different in some ways as well.
In what way?
With the irrigation, normally we have sprinklers that shoot up around the trees, but they use old drip irrigation that shoots right onto the roots.
What would you consider from what you've seen as something that's worth adapting into your own operations?
One of the interesting things we saw up towards Hawke's Bay area was totally random crop. I mean, it was actually on sweet corn and whatever, but he was planting under plastic sweet corn, and it was basically just to bring him in a couple of weeks earlier to market. No other real rhyme or reason for it and whatever. It was actually very interesting, and bringing that back home to us on a different scale and seeing, because we have this big not competition, but this divide in season between when Victoria growers switch off and Queensland growers start, and vice versa at the end of the season. And being a Victorian grower, being able to come on maybe a week or two earlier than the rest of the bunch. Definitely something that we'll be looking into and potentially implementing this season.
Similar to Warrick, we went to an asparagus farm, and they were growing under a plastic dome, just like a small, 30 centimetres off the ground, and that was the same thing. They could get into that market earlier, and therefore they were getting a lot better price. And compared to their competitors, they were the only ones at that time of year that had asparagus ready for the shops. So that, and also there was a little bit of talk amongst actual people on the tour about drone spraying. And we didn't actually see any in New Zealand, but we did hear about farms that were doing it. And it's definitely something that I'd like to look into and potentially implement here.
Like what Warrick said with that sweet corn planter, that's a very big thing to help get the sweet corn up emerging quickly. And I don't know how we can bring that into our industry with the spuds. I've seen videos actually before in Canada, I think. They've covered their spuds just basically the same to make them emerge quicker in the cold climates.
While New Zealand's not that far away from Australia, it was clear there were some differences in how things are done. Jimmy Fox.
Yeah, we went to a few real big farms there. They have 300 people working for them and whatnot. We only probably employ 4 or 5 people in a seasonal.
A couple of other things I had was it was a lot different in the aspect of land prices. In the Manjimup Pemberton area where Jimmy and I are, land prices generally are around $50,000 a hectare. Sometimes even less than that, 30 to 50,000. And over there, we were seeing prices of up to $200,000 a hectare, and I just don't know how it's viable for them to be buying land at that sort of price. And with all the input costs that they talked about, was it just didn't really add up. And the other thing I had down here was the scale of some of the farms we went to was just massive. Some of them would have been similar size to where Warrick works, where they've got, a couple hundred employees. But compared to us down here in WA, where, we only have a couple of people working.
They definitely, a lot of the guys, especially if they were into any fruit or stone fruit or apples and whatever, they had a lot of seasonal workers. They're going through, we've got the palm scheme here and they've got different schemes there. So we're very similar on the workforce and the problems related to it. Another just interesting thing that we took away from there was the software packages that some of the guys are using there for their human resource management and the whole thing. Yeah, different when you've got 10 people, but like us, we've got close on 200 people or 250 people across farm and factory. Your human resource management needs to be right up there, your onboarding and all that sort of stuff. And it was something that we, speaking to a few of the individuals there and at the conference, that there was some interesting takeaways from that were going to be helpful for us in the future.
Yeah, like I said, just with the scale, it was just there's no such thing as a small farm anymore. It's not really viable. So I think for that reason, it's just we didn't see much of it.
As an island nation like Australia, New Zealand has a strong focus on biosecurity to protect the local industry. For the tour group, the chance to view how biosecurity is enforced at Wellington International Airport was a highlight.
Yeah, that was really interesting. They had the sniffer dog there, and it was the sniffer dog could smell apples, anything really, like fruit that could have been brought in from Australia or different countries that could have held a threat to New Zealand. But yeah, that was really interesting how thorough they are with how they manage all that stuff there.
Yeah, I was very impressed with how they were doing their biosecurity over there. I think in Australia it's pretty similar to, obviously I haven't been to the airport and gone through it on a tour like we had over there, but I think it is very similar.
I said it when I was there. It was a bit of an eye opener when we were at the airport and we were going through their biosecurity protocols and being faced with the opposite end of the stick at some stages in my life too. Is we get angry with the process or the red tape or the slowness or the speed of importing these things. We suffer from it all the time. All our seed that we plant is all imported seed. none of it is produced in Australia. So we're at the mercy of customs control and biosecurity all the time. But, looking back at it, the governments and the biosecurities are really actually protecting us. It's the farmer that's going to suffer at the end of the day when these diseases, and I think places like New Zealand and Australia have, hats off to them, they've actually done extremely well. When you think of how the small world we live in and how many people move around and how easy it is to bring a potato in your pocket or in your bag, to keep this stuff out at a commercial level is no easy task.
The Vegetable and Onion Industry Study Tours, Project VG23002, are funded by Hort Innovation using the Vegetable and Onion Research and Development levies and also contributions from the Australian Government. Their aim is to increase the knowledge and skills of industry members and to help them grow their networks. I asked Jimmy, Calvin and Warrick if, based on their New Zealand experience, they'd recommend them to others.
Yeah, I would 100% recommend this tour for a lot of reasons, really, especially for younger farmers like me and Calvin. I think more of us should get out and especially meet other people, which is a very big thing. We made some pretty good relationships with people over there. I made real good friends. And another good thing is to get out and learn and see other countries of how they do stuff. More of it should happen.
I agree fully with what Jimmy said. Not only the people we met over there, the people on the tour that we met as well, like Warrick, for example. We might live on the other side of the country, but if we're ever over there, we would definitely contact him and go and have a look at his operation, along with multiple other people that we met. It might not be directly relevant, like Warrick might be baby leaf and we're potatoes, but just to see certain aspects of how the operations ran and how we can take away from that.
I think the contacts and relationships that you make because of it, like Calvin and Jimmy, definitely if I was ever in WA side of the world, I'll look them up and go and have a beer with the guys. I made contacts at the conference that I could now go to New Zealand on a separate study tour of my own if I wanted to, and go and have a look at them and see their operation and get some more insight and advice and whatever. These study trips, if anybody's ever got an opportunity to do one, you're mad if you don't do it.
You've been listening to the Vegalogue podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and give the podcast a rating and review. Vegalogue is produced by AUSVEG, the peak industry body for Australian vegetable growers. You can find more news and information from AUSVEG at ausveg.com.au, on our social media channels, or in Australian Grower magazine. See you next time.